For me, one of the great joys of this series has been the inspiration to my imagination and making those ideas come to life in my own gardens.
With a great deal of help from nature, I know that I have created a work of art. Now, I know that because looking around this garden fills my heart with joy. And if you can do that, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, you have made a work of art. And of course, everybody can do it, because if you're kind to her, then dear old Mother Nature will give you a big helping hand along the way. But there are some things about this garden that you can't see, and I suppose the most important is that as I walk through this gate, my nose is assaulted by a wonderful variety of perfume. Now, of course, that's great for the gardener, but bear in mind that that perfume was really designed to attract pollinating insects. And that means that if you fill your garden with perfume, you'll also fill it with bees and butterflies. Well, Diana, you've designed a garden here specifically for wildlife. What made you do it?
Well, ever since I've been very young, I've always been interested in all aspects of wildlife, and I can't think of anything better than to be able to look at it in your own garden.
Do you also think it's important to provide alternative habitats for wildlife?
Yes, I think it is, because if you're having a garden such as mine where no chemicals are used, there's a place for wildlife to be able to come to. The increase of pesticides, etc., is actually wiping out wildlife.
So is this something which is restricted to the countryside, or could you do it in the town?
No, I mean, if you create the right sort of environment, there's no reason, even in the inner city, why you can't attract all sorts of different wildlife to your garden. Well, I think there are basic principles to observe. The first, I think, is that you've got to start from the lowest life forms and then build your way up. If you start off by introducing flowering plants, immediately you begin to attract insects. Once you have the flowering plants and the insects, you want to attract birds. And birds will be quite happy to come after the insects and also after the seeds, but they need somewhere to perch. So you then need to have some tall shrubs and some ornamental trees for them to feel as if they are in a safe environment.
Now, looking around, you're obviously a plantaholic because you've made the borders bigger. Is providing that sort of cover also important for wildlife?
Yes, because I think that if you have, as was here when we first came, the garden was just an open expanse. There was very little wildlife coming into the garden at all. And I think if you can create lots of cover, then gradually the wildlife will feel more secure into coming into the garden.
Mm-hmm. So what sort of cover have you got? I notice over there you've got a big mound.
Yes, well that's covered with lots of ground cover there. There's habitat obviously in there for slugs and snails, and we also have a very large ant's nest in there. But slugs and snails are even important in the garden because frogs obviously like to come and collect slugs, so do hedgehogs. You have to have a combination of everything to get the balance of nature just right.
What can I do if I want, say, to attract butterflies?
Well, butterflies love scented plants. So by introducing a lot of scented plants around the garden, that will bring butterflies in. And there are obvious things such as sedums and Michaelmas daisies and buddleias, which are always a great attraction for butterflies. Mm-hmm. There are things like the opium poppies, which are good for all sorts of bees and hoverflies. Things like the foxgloves, which attract insects. There are a lot of flowering plants. Also, there are native plants as well that you could use, such as meadowsweet, which we actually grow around the pond. The most important thing you can do to encourage wildlife in the garden is to introduce water, and for preference, a still pond. That begins immediately to start attracting newts and frogs. They seem to smell it within days of you putting it in. But if you're lucky, you'll also get hedgehogs or badgers or even foxes coming to drink from the pond, dragonflies, damselflies. You get a massive life with a pond.
Just outside your garden, on the verges, I noticed that you've got lots of stinging nettles.
Yes, yes.
The council don't cut that verge, obviously, and you keep the stinging nettles. Why is that?
Well, that verge does belong to the council rather than to us, and there are nettles there, which obviously are the foodstuff of some insects, caterpillars of certain butterflies. I'd rather have nettles outside in the verge than I would have them growing in the garden.
Mm. So, do you think it would be a good thing if we tried to stop councils cutting verges too much?
Yes, I do.
It seems to me that with a little more thought and imagination, road verges and hedges all over the country could be left to become havens for wildlife. As I continued my search for more paradise gardens, I remembered Miriam Rothschild's grand wildflower meadows and her even grander plan for the highways and byways of Britain.
After I'd been sort of reintroducing flowering hayfields all over the place for 20 years, I suddenly thought, well, I'm going off the ground into the hedgerows. It was rather amusing. And I began to think of all the things which one used to see flowering hedgerows, wild roses among them. Into my new hedges I introduced wild roses, and up on part of the old airfield I've got really a wonderful show there, I must admit it, and 9 species. And you can have your hedges as if they had ice cream all over them. I mean, wonderful white flowers the whole way around. I'd like to see the whole country full of wild roses, and you could plant them along all the hedgerows on the main roads. The big bypasses are on the big A1s and M2s and 3s. The whole way along there you could have the wild roses. It's perfectly easy to propagate wild roses. I mean, you can take cuttings off the bush, hundreds of them. There's a new way now of growing these wild roses. cuttings in water, you know, and you can get thousands of them there quite easily with very little labour. I think it could be advertised. I think it's very funny, you know, people have the thoughts at the back of their minds for years before they sort of come out into the open. But once the idea is there, it can very easily be roused. I think you could soon get flowery hedgerows along our motorways, and I have written about that too, about putting in wildflowers along the road. And I think there'd be wonderful nectar lanes for butterflies. You'd have a lot of butterflies go along there. And you know, in the States, in Texas, along the road verges there, which are much wider than ours, they give large, very large, wide road verges. You get even hummingbirds there. They come to the flowers along. I've seen hummingbirds along the road verges in Texas. You get a lot of wild flowers and a lot of marvellous birds.
What a dream, eh? To cover the whole country with the summer colour and the heady perfume of roses. And you know, if enough of us want it, well, sometimes those dreams have a habit of coming true. In the meantime, we can all create our own little bit of earthly paradise by filling our gardens with the perfumes of the countryside. But when I visited the cottage herbery in Worcestershire, I discovered that Kim Hurst didn't really have to try too hard. Kim, you're living here in an absolutely idyllic spot, surrounded by trees and fields, perfectly quiet, even a little babbling brook at the end of the garden. If this isn't paradise, I don't know what is. But it's a bit isolated, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. It's not too far from the main road, but that's the way I like it. I like to have the peace and quiet and be able to hear all the noises of the countryside and the birds and everything.
Now, you're a great gardener, of course, Kim, and you're surrounded here by colour. But how important do you think perfume is in the garden?
Very important, especially in a south-facing garden like this. We've got lots of things like honeysuckles and philadelphus, a lot of the aromatic type shrubs as well, and they're really important in the garden.
You grow quite a lot of old roses too, don't you?
Yes, I do, yes.
Are there any there that you could really recommend for perfume?
Things like William Lobb and Cawston WAS. There's also things like Gertrude G called a climbing rose.
I know you sell herbs for culinary purposes and perhaps medicinal purposes too, but they're also important for perfume as well, aren't
Yes, very much so, yeah. Things like the artemisias, you can use those a lot. You've got a good sort of strong aromatic plant there. Then there's all the mints, lemon mint, ginger mint, eau de cologne, that's a particularly good one to use. Very strong aromatic plant.
Because you're a herb specialist, you're obviously growing your plants in special herb gardens, but they do go well on the border too, don't they?
Oh yes, you mix them very well in the border. Things like the bronze fennel and the green fennel always look really nice in the border because you've got that lovely feathery foliage. Things like Calaminta grandiflora, that really is a special plant that needs to be at the front of the border, and you've got the scent and the flowers of that. And things like feverfew looks nice dotted around in the garden too, the little white daisy flowers.
Well, you've also got a small family, apart from your husband, Rob. You've got a young daughter, India.
Yes.
Do you not think it's be better for her in the town?
Oh no, no way. She loves it here. In fact, she said, "You will leave it to me, won't you, Mum? And I can stay here forever." You know, she really does love it here, and she says it's the best place on earth, which is really great from a child of 7 to say that.
Patricia Siddle has created a brightly coloured paradise in Cheshire, bathed in perfume. Being visually impaired means she has very little choice, even though her original plans were more subtle.
Well, Pat, it's mid-July and your garden is looking very beautiful. But you didn't actually plant it for what it looks like, did you?
No. Initially I did, but later on I designed it and planted it mainly for scent and sociability.
So why did you plant it for scent?
Because although I was always aware of perfume, it wasn't the predominant thing in the garden. But when my eyesight began to fail about 4 years ago, obviously it became more important, because not only do I want to work in the garden, which I do, I like to sit in it. I really like to enjoy it. And that, to me, there is nothing nicer on a nice day than just sitting here and smelling all the smells around me and waiting for the wind to change direction, and then I get a smell of something else. And it's just my idea of bliss.
When you've planted your garden, do you look for plants that have a very sensitive, subtle smell, or the better perfumed plants?
Well, it has been known to say that my aspirations were for certain seating areas to smell like a tart's boudoir.
How do you know what a tart's boudoir smells like?
Well, I can dream about it. I think it would smell something like this. There's lovely, heavy, musky scents.
So when you buy plants then, you must have to research very carefully about the sort of perfume that you've got.
I don't research it, I buy them in flower, because I've been disappointed with quite a number of plants that I've researched and found out about that's reputed to have had this wonderful perfume. But when I get them, I can't smell anything. So now I wait till they're actually out and then go and smell them, and that's how I buy them. Because I garden on my hands and knees, I don't miss out on the scents. And I'm also learning now to actually put plants higher. A lot of people actually appreciate something that's maybe subtly scented to be raised a bit higher. So I'm beginning to think about ways that I can arrange that.
I've also noticed, Pat, as I've walked through, some plants that are good to touch.
Yes. I'm a bit childish really, I quite like touching them. There's this lamb's ear, for example. Every time I go past that I give it a little squeeze.
Lovely furry leaves, aren't they?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And while we're on the subject of touch, I've found to my disadvantage that when I'm trying to prune or train the climbing roses, I can get prickled because I can't actually see where the thorns are. So I've been looking around and found this one, which is a beautiful old-fashioned.
Zephyr and Druin.
That's the very one. And I haven't got the problem of thorns, but I've still got the old-fashioned scent, so that's the best of both worlds.
Beautiful, isn't it? Pat, do you actually do all the gardening yourself?
Oh yes, I actually designed this one from scratch, and I did it on graph paper before my eyesight went, with the intention of creating different corners and different rooms, with the option to develop the corners differently if I felt so inclined as I went along.
Oh, now this is the compost area in here, isn't it?
Yes.
And amazingly, you've even got scented plants here as well.
Well, why not? I spend a lot of time in here, coming up and down in the garden, and I like something to smell nice.
Well, this is the pineapple broom, and oh, it smells beautiful, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Pure
it does.
pineapples. Really lovely.
I think since I've been gardening, I've learned and appreciated more about nature and how clever nature is. She does some wonderful things for me. She's very generous, because if I've been cutting the wrong things off and whatever, it all bounces up again. All the freebies I get with seeds, all the mistakes you make, somehow give a week or two and they seem to pale into insignificance with the rest of the garden. And it makes you feel quite humble, really, that you can make all these painstaking efforts with all these thoughts and you just turn around and it's just done it itself. This is my favourite bit of the day. This is the Patricia Arms.
About 41 years now. Well, a friend told me about this place and we came to see it. It was absolutely derelict, but I could see, you know, that it had potential, so we took it. And everybody thought I was mad for doing it. Yeah. And there's nothing in the garden at all. It was just a sea of docks, nettles and elderberry bushes and laurels and thousands of milk bottles and everything bar the kitchen sink. I've got over 2,000 varieties of plants in the garden here. Years ago, when well, some years since I counted them up, and I shouldn't like to start now. I just spend about, 3 hours in the morning and perhaps 3 hours in the afternoon. I have a job getting up and down. I can get down all right, but it's playing well getting up. I'm floundering about like a baby elephant sometimes. The biggest trouble I had was with pheasants. I had about 1,000 crocuses round the edge of this lawn and about 1,000 tulips, and the pheasants cleaned the lot up, dug them all up. The trouble is they can run faster than I can, so I can't catch them. This is what I call a misplaced sundial. It doesn't tell any happy hours. I'll just have to move it out into the sun one of these fine days. Oh, it's beautiful. It's just peace. Just peace it is. I'm not religious with regard to coming to church, but I says this is my church up here, in the garden. I don't own it, I only rent it. I rent it from, well, it's a farmer, he owns all this land round here. I feel now I've been a fool doing it, but at the same time, years ago, I mean, them days I couldn't afford to have bought anything. I couldn't have bought a rabbit or two. No, I've had my pleasure out of it, and that's the chief thing.